Battalion 1.
We just had a plane crash into Alpha 4 of the World Trade Center. Welcome to Contact 2-3. When you see any movement in there, I want you to hit it. Out.
Roger. We're taking fire from roughly building 112,
421 eastbound, red Pontiac G6, near passenger, George Robert.
Car standby. Car standby. 50 officer.
Trade said that tower number 1 is on fire. The whole outside of the building, it was just a huge explosion.
33. We're outside the building. 744.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of The Watch and the War. Today in the studio, we have Bayleigh Wessel-Burress. She is an MS, RDN, LDN, IFNCP, and CPT, and a licensed registered dietitian nutritionist. Integrative functional nutritionist, certified practitioner, and certified personal trainer specializing in root cause whole body health. She's the CEO and founder of Balance Blue Collective, which is an integrative and functional nutrition practice where she helps clients address complex health concerns through personalized nutrition, lifestyle strategies, and functional medicine principles. Bayleigh earned her Bachelor of Science in Nutrition from the University of Southern Indiana and her Master of Science in Nutrition from Murray State University, where she also completed her dietetic internship. She graduated from Mater Dei High School, class of 2016, and that is a lot to say, Bayleigh, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Honored to be here, guys.
I think, first off, I think I might have answered my own question from earlier. All of those acronyms after your name are probably everything I read right after it.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Started coming together there as I was reading it. That was our first question here. So, so welcome. Let's talk about what you do, how you started doing it, and just why you're here.
Yeah, 100%. So basically, what I do, I'm a registered dietitian, specialized in integrative and functional medicine. In the world of dietetics, there's a bunch of different niches. Mine is integrative and functional medicine. And how I came to be here. So it was around 2012. I actually was really sick for a long time. I started having these episodes. It was like I passed out, but I was not fully passed out. Think of it as like a computer that is asleep, but it's still on internally. That's what was happening in my body. So I could hear everything, feel everything. You could lift my arm up, but it would go back down. I was off, basically. It was creepy, right? So my episodes, they were happening once, every few months, ended up happening once a month. From there, ended up happening once a day. Then multiple times a day. I think there was few days to where I would end up, I was having 20, 30 episodes a day, and we didn't know why, right?
Sorry, how old were you when this kind of started, roughly?
12, 13.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was in my 8th grade year.
Wow.
So it was right before high school.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, so right before high school. Do we need to go back or anything?
No, you're good.
Yeah, good, cool.
Yeah.
So right before high school, and went into high school having these episodes, a little bit of a freak show, but it happens. And at the time, I was working with my general practitioner and then Riley Children's Hospital. They had diagnosed me with neurocardiogenic syncope, which is basically it's the same family of POTS. If you guys have heard of POTS, maybe postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Basically, in a nutshell, the blood goes from your head to your feet and you pass out.
Oh, okay.
But I wasn't really passing out, right? So, misdiagnosis.
That's what I have.
Really?
That's what you have?
Yes. So still in the same family. Yes.
Man, Tommy coming in.
Yeah.
Off the
So
top
they
rope.
misdiagnosed me with that, right? But they said they were adamant that was the diagnosis for probably, a good 2 or 3 years. And I was working with Riley Children's Hospital, and the doctors there were adamant saying, this is what it is. Ended up, we went to the Cleveland Clinic because the treatment obviously was not working. Mm-hmm. Spells were becoming more constant. And Cleveland Clinic, I worked with a neurologist, cardiologist, and an endocrinologist. The team had diagnosed me with, it was a form of muscular dystrophy called periodic paralysis. Did not have that, spoiler.
We'll
and then from there, it got 10 times worse because, treatment at the time, he said a no carbohydrate diet. Being a dietitian now, that was horrible advice to give to a patient. And then he also had me on a diuretic. So again, episodes escalated. I ended up in a wheelchair. I ended up bedbound. I, couldn't think. I ended up having to be homeschooled. It was bad. Like my quality of life was just non-existent. And I think, from where my family was at, we were just kind of prepping.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was happening. I had doctors saying, it's not looking good. And so from there, my mother, she did not give up. She's a hard girl to, fight with. And she really gave it her all when it came to, fighting for my health and fighting for me. And, my dad really worked too. And so they ended up going back to a different part of the Cleveland Clinic. It was actually the Integrative and Functional Medicine clinic at the Cleveland Clinic. So they had opened up, I think it was in March, and we got in May. And that's when things really took a turn. So I went from being bedbound, wheelchair-bound, no quality of life, to going to college, like a normal person, joining a sorority, becoming president of my sorority. Like it was like complete 180. And you don't hear about that.
No.
Like that doesn't happen. So for me, it was, okay, what is this? And why is this working? And so for me, it was, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And I'm going to help people like me. Because this is absolutely ridiculous that we have an entire population of people who are sick and are not getting any answers and are consistently getting that runaround.
Well, like the first thing that comes to my mind is, being a parent, and could you imagine that 30 times a day your child is just passing out?
Terrifying.
And you had no answers. I would be in a state of shock all day long.
And I think they were. I think, my parents were really good. My entire family was really good at making light of it as much as you can, right? I mean, my mother. Yep. And she is a funny one, right?
Yeah.
So we would make jokes, and, I would be on a spell and they would draw mustaches on my face, or they would try to tickle. Like they were evil whenever it came to my episodes. I remember we were on a cruise one time, because again, you got to make the best of it.
Sure. And
we were on a cruise, and I had an episode, and I landed on my plate, and the waiter came around and he was like, "Oh, are you okay?" And somebody goes, "Oh, she had too much to drink on the island." You know what I mean? Like you have to make light of the situation at the time, because if you don't, it gets dark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In a dark
quick
time, like if you don't, handle it, well, it can get pretty dark.
So from like 8th grade, you started doing this, you're going through this. From the time that this started until you were kind of going to college, what we're talking about, maybe 4 or 5 years worth of these episodes? Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness.
And I didn't complete treatment until 2018, 2019.
Okay.
So it was 2012 to 2018, 2019.
So we got to the part where you lived a normal life in college, but we didn't talk about how.
How?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just like, I went there and then I was good.
It worked. Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah. So from there, the treatment for me, it was a pretty intensive treatment. So with the functional medicine team at the Cleveland Clinic, I worked with a doctor, dietitian, nurse practitioner, team of nurses, the whole shebang. And it's interesting and very different from what you see today in conventional medicine. I spent an hour with a doctor. Typical, billing time with doctors, with any practitioner is, 15, 30 minutes. You can do a little more. But I spent an hour with a doctor, an hour with a dietitian, an hour with the nurse practitioner. Like I spent time there. We spent our entire day there whenever I would go up for appointments. And so, I would go into the doctors, and they would walk me through their side of it, their treatment plan. Okay, these are the tests we're going to run, all these different things. I would work with a dietitian. And this is where I really saw the biggest change was I remember I went in and I met with my first dietitian. I worked with a multitude of dietitians over the course of time. And my first dietitian, her name was Bridget. And Bridget was so positive. She had a similar story. And she was like, okay, this is going to be really challenging. This is going to be a lot from a nutritional perspective, but you got to put in the work and you got to do it. So for me, and it's, and I'm going to make a point here because every patient case is unique. And just because one diet therapeutic diet works for one person does not mean it's going to work for the next, right? So we have to make sure we personalize it. So for me, I went more paleo. We cut out gluten, dairy. We did an elimination diet, and then we did low sugar, low glycemic. I'm trying to think what else.
Is what you're describing the paleo diet? Just for people who are not aware of that, can you
it was like
brief...
a Paleo-plus.
Okay.
Right?
So paleo meaning only food that was available during the Paleolithic time or
yes, so
something,
it was
correct?
whole foods. Like it was like no processed foods.
No processed foods.
No, like we were specifically whole foods. And the reason we went that extreme was because we didn't know what was going on. Like even working with them, like they couldn't even diagnose it at the time. They had an idea of what was kind of going on, but so went full force on the diet. I remember I went back up for my second appointment, and the doctor said, "All right, you have." It was around 6 or 7 different autoimmune conditions, prediabetes, mitochondrial dysfunction, intestinal permeability, which is also known as leaky gut, non-celiac gluten sensitivity with gluten ataxia manifestations, which are the episodes I was having, and then a few other things. And it was insane. So we went
a whole bucket of problems.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it was, everything in my body wasn't working, right?
Yeah,
like even down to my cells, like the mitochondria. Do you guys know what the mitochondria is? So it's the powerhouse of the cell. It's what makes the energy, right? That was not working. That's insane. Like how do you get to a point where your cells aren't even functioning, right? And even like my gut, like I am massive in gut health right now, right? That's a big part of my practice.
Good. We're going to talk about that later.
Yeah. It's a big part of my practice. And in the gut, you have something called the microbiome. Okay. And when you think of the microbiome, I want you to think of it as like a garden. And in the garden, you're going to have good bugs and you're going to have bad bugs. You primarily want to have a lot of good bugs. Okay. But it's okay if you have some bad bugs. But when the bad bugs get to a point to where they're a lot, it starts to really affect the health of that overall garden. Okay. So in terms of my garden, my overall microbiome, I had a lot of bad bugs. I had severe candida overgrowth, a lot of bacteria overgrowth. Candida is like a fungus, a lot of viral overgrowth. There was a lot going on there. And so the overall health of that microbiome was like extremely imbalanced, again, leading to multiple different issues. But yeah, it was crazy. So treatment wise, it went on. I was strict on the diet, therapeutic diet therapy, and then we did some supplemental therapies. They had to prescribe some medications as well. And yeah.
So all of these issues that you were having, were they all things that you were born with, or was it like one thing that rolled into another that rolled into another?
One thing that rolled into another that rolled into another. And that's what we see a lot of times, and what I see in practice a lot of times too. So for me, I was born cesarean. So whenever you're born cesarean, and especially, the year I was born, and around that era, the microbiome and the knowledge about the microbiome didn't necessarily exist. So I was born into a sterile environment. And so there wasn't, any taking, stuff from the vaginal canal and smearing it on the baby like they do now. It was just full sterile. So I
didn't even realize they did that now.
I didn't either.
Was that you just like, hey, here's some ick.
Yeah.
Get it
you
in
can
there
request
and
that.
get it going.
Yeah, no, and that can really start to create and develop that baby's microbiome. So that wasn't a thing, right?
So it's kind of like having your kids playing dirt so they get germs.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that just wasn't there, right? So born into a sterile environment. So it's basically you're taking a baby and you're putting it into the world and saying, good luck. From there, I grew up and I had severe asthma and allergies. I remember as a kid, I'll probably around my 6th, 7th grade year, I was having an asthma attack every day, every other day. Like there was a lot of issues. I was on high dose of asthma medications. I was allergic to the world. It felt like dust, grass, mold, certain type of weed, so multitude of different issues. And then even from a dietary perspective, I was extremely picky. Growing up, the only thing I would eat was Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Well,
God bless my parents. Because it was like they had to carry around the Easy Mac? Is it like the one you warm up in the microwave? Yeah. They would have to take that with them places because I refused to eat anything. So I had no diversity in my diet. Therefore, and we'll talk about it, here coming up too in terms of microbial diversity. there's no diversity. There's no nutrients going in. There's no nutrients coming in from fruits and veggies. There's a lack of protein. It was just straight carbohydrates, which affects your blood glucose. Wide variety of different things that just definitely could have led to that. And then, I was always sick too. So chronically on antibiotics, if we go back years ago as well, the knowledge of antibiotics, they would just kind of put you on an antibiotic for anything.
Still do that.
Yeah.
And speaking of gut health, right, it wipes it all out. So
exactly. Yeah. And so it can get kind of scary. And, I felt like I was on one all the time. So, it cleared out all those good bugs, because whenever you're on an antibiotic, you have to be careful, because it not just wipes out the bad, but it also wipes out the good.
Sure.
So it was just gut busters after gut busters. So it definitely stacked up to the point, if you think of it as like a cup and like a glass of water, we're filling up that cup, we're filling up that cup, we're filling up that cup, and the cup just spilled over. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up sick. And it happens time and time again.
So all of these passing out spells, it was really just changing a diet and adding some supplements that really turned it around? Or was there like some magic pill?
No, it was a full lifestyle change.
Okay, so it wasn't, I probably made that very simple sounding.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah.
A whole lifestyle change that primarily involved diet.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Full lifestyle change.
Like they didn't give you a pill and you were okay. No. Okay, that's kind of
and it's one of those things too. Like if we think of, in terms of conventional medicine too, I have a lot of patients that come to me and that's how they feel. They feel like a lot of practitioners will just give them a pill. Mm-hmm. If we're really going to see a true change in health, we have to do a full lifestyle change.
Yeah. And
it's not just diet. It's sleep, exercise, stress management, the way we think, the, stuff we consume from, our content, from our foods, our, supplements, the supplements we consume, the stuff we drink, the stuff we put in our mouth. It's everything. It takes a full lifestyle change.
Well, and we had alluded to this before we started. We bring on people to talk about a lot of these issues that we're kind of all having and how we've gotten through them. And we were really framing problems, but we really wanted to start bringing on some solutions, right? And we wanted to start with diet because that's something somebody can change today, right now.
Yes.
It's not something they have to wait or go call some specialist necessarily, right? So that was a big reason why we wanted to really just get that point across. It's like, all right, we've got it. Now let's do something about it.
100%.
Stop talking about it and be about it, right?
And I can't imagine like the work that goes into, like you got all these issues, right? And it's almost like a process of elimination, right? It's like, if I change my diet and this gets better, but it affects this, how do we know like what's working, what's not working? Like that's a lot of stuff to work out.
And it's one of those things too. That's why it's important to go slow. Right. And really watch. I have, again, a lot of people come to me, and I expected it whenever I was a patient too. I wanted a quick fix. We live in a really fast world.
Oh, yeah.
We can get, hop on our phone, hop on ChatGPT or Claude and get an answer quickly. Right. And that's not how health works. It takes time, sometimes years. Yeah. And that's just part of the game.
Yeah. So, I really wanted to talk about like just how important diet is. I mean, you mentioned paleo. There's a bunch of these diets out there.
All the fad diets.
We've all heard, I've heard paleo, carnivore, keto, Atkins, Weight Watchers. I don't know if that's one. Gluten-free, right? Where do you fall?
On fad diets?
On just diets. I mean, is it a fad diet if it works and it's good?
So a few things there. So in terms of
fad has like a negative connotation to
it. It does. But here's the thing too, like in a fad diet, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier too, just because it works for one person doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. Sure. And so if we think in terms of fad diets, so okay, for example, carnivore, because I know that's extremely popular. What are you primarily cutting out?
Carbs.
What else?
Vegetables, fat. No, you're probably eating fats.
You're eating fats. You're taking
starches.
You're taking out a lot of processed foods too.
Oh yeah.
Right. So you're taking out kind of, some of the big things that people should remove in terms of, if the goal is weight loss. Now, the other downside to the carnivore diet too is you're eliminating full food groups. I do not recommend eliminating full food groups unless it is absolutely medically necessary. Why? Because, if we're cutting out fruits and vegetables per se, we're cutting out all of these nutrients that we get specifically from fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
If we can supplement that, Or if you're going to supplement that, why wouldn't you just get it from your foods in the first place?
True.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
good point.
So it's one of those things in terms of fad diets. It may work in the short term, but the other thing we need to look at is sustainability. Is it sustainable? If we are like super restricting on all these different food groups, or really, you know, keto, for example, right? We're cutting out carbs and we're, you know, instead of the glucose, we got ketones, all these things.
Yeah.
Super, super restrictive. But we're also cutting out quality of life, right? You're cutting out the opportunity to go out to eat with friends. You're cutting out the opportunity to, you know, enjoy a meal with your family. You know what I mean? You're cutting out different things, and it's not sustainable in the long term. Now, that's not to say, because some of these diets are medically necessary, right? So keto has been shown to be a therapeutic diet to patients with epilepsy, right? And has shown amazing results. Gluten-free is fantastic for patients with celiac disease or non-celiac gluten sensitivity or gluten allergies. You know what I mean? In some cases, it is medically necessary. But for the general population, it's not really worth it.
Yeah. I mean, I did keto for a little while there, and it was like, felt great.
Yeah.
Right. Looked great. But, you know, it goes back to, you have to do a whole lifestyle change. And I wasn't quite ready to, you know, not go out with friends or have a glass alcohol or whatever back then. Right. But I mean, I've even seen it. It was funny because right after we had talked to you about coming on the show, I met a guy for work, and he was talking about, he runs a gardening business, and he was saying that his father had cancer, like stage 4 cancer. They gave him a year, and they put him on this a keto diet, and he ended up living 5 years. Which I was like, man, I have a good friend of mine who had a brain tumor and was, you know, basically given a very short amount of time, and they put him on, you know, a keto diet, and he was sharp, and he was like looking really good, and you know, eventually it did catch up to him, and you know, he passed away from it, but the amount of time he got, which I would probably credit most of that to, you know, he's got a very strong faith life, but also his diet. You know, if he would have just ate McDonald's the rest of his life, it would have been a lot shorter. And it's crazy seeing that. And
it's really interesting too, because like, you know, if we're thinking through an oncology lens, like, you know, it's important for patients with cancer to do the oncology treatments, right? Like the diet is something to add on, but again, doing it under medical supervision is incredibly necessary as well, because that diet's going to look very different under medical supervision compared to just, you know, doing the keto diet on your own.
So there's no like, everyone is different, like you said earlier, every single thing. So how do I figure out what's for me? Like, what is the steps as far as like for you specifically? Like right now, someone's listening and they're like, okay, this is kind of a good idea for some people. Maybe it's for me, maybe it's not. How do I know?
So are you talking in terms of like foods or like calories or protein, fat?
I don't know. What would you think?
So just from personal experience, so there was a period of my life I wanted to do bodybuilding, train for a show, right? And I would get a diet from my guy. But it took 6 months or so to realize like I'm not a low carb guy. I work better on higher carbs. I actually lose more fat. I'm better. You drop my carbs, but I'm terrible on fats, right? I don't hold like nuts and peanut, like it's not good for me. But I didn't know it until I went through this transition period. Like, okay, this doesn't work. So again, I think it reiterates like everybody's different, right?
Yes.
What works for me may not work for Paul, vice versa. So just
100%. And it always, you know, different stages, different ages. It's always going to ebb and flow, and something that may have worked for you, you know, during one area, for example, bodybuilding, or, you know, if you're intensely working out and then years later, you know, you're like, nope, I want to slow down, that your diet's going to look very different, and it's okay for that diet to shift, right? Biggest piece of advice overall, because again, I know people do get confused with the fad diets and what they see online, and we are in the era of influencers, right? We have everybody online telling you what to eat, how much to eat, what to do, how to do. Eat your fruits and vegetables. It's okay to eat a carb. Make sure you're eating protein, right? Having that as like a foundation is going to be more important than sticking to just low carb or, you know, just proteins. You know what I mean? Making sure we're balanced as a whole is going to be more important in the long run.
And Would you add in stay away from processed foods as much as possible?
Limit if possible.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here thinking the whole time, like, if you had like a McDonald's cheeseburger today, would you pass out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just been on my head the whole time.
I would have an episode.
Okay,
fast
cool.
food is non-existent in my life, which
a lifestyle change, right?
Yeah. But it's one of those things too. Going back to processed foods super fast. If we think in terms of processed foods, everything's processed, right? Like an apple that's cut up and then put into a container and then put into the store, at the grocery store, that's considered processed. When I say processed, I mean ultra processed foods, right? So Oreos, Cheez-Its, different things like that, like that would be considered ultra processed. That would be something
stuff.
I would refrain from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. I don't know if I think I asked a question about how do we find out I don't know if we got to that answer or not. Did we? Is there like blood work or like I said, hey, I want to know what diet is or what would work for me. Yeah. Does it start with blood work, I would assume, or
yes and no. So honestly,
elimination diets?
Yeah.
Or?
So for me, so typically what happens is whenever, I meet with a patient, I'm working through and I'm talking through their case. So they come in, they do an intake form, and then we're talking through, okay, what has worked in the past, what has not, or what are some current things that are going on. I've had patients who have had severe anxiety, depression. I've had patients who have had GI issues, hormone issues, wide variety of different things. Depending on what's going on in that patient's case, that's what influences the diet and that therapeutic diet.
Okay. Because that's a big part of, I think a big part of why I wanted to have you on was just how food can influence like your mood overall or your mental health.
Yes.
And some of the things that, you wake up and you feel terrible, then you go and you have a donut and then you feel even more terrible. And then it's like, I mean, that's an obvious situation, right? But there's a lot of instances out there where food and what you eat in your diet can actually improve your overall mental health.
1000%.
If you want to speak a little bit on that, so it's just not me making it up.
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
100%. No, and it's the truth. So I'm gonna throw some big words out, but it's gonna make sense here in a minute.
Sure.
So in your gut, you have something called an enteric nervous system. Okay, so that enteric nervous system is a nervous system that's completely independent, away from your brain and a brain from your spinal cord. And that enteric nervous system talks to your brain through something called the vagus nerve, okay? And those signals are going to be sent primarily, some go down, but mostly from your gut to your brain, okay? And so depending on what you eat, that can influence the enteric nervous system. Your gut microbiome also influences it, okay? Because depending on the microbes, and the metabolites, that can influence neurotransmitter production, so GABA, dopamine, serotonin signaling, in turn affecting how the brain works as well, right? So if we are eating a diet full of ultra-processed foods, high in carbohydrates, lacking in protein, lacking in fruits and vegetables, that's going to, really throw a wrench and, really imbalance that overall gut health. Okay.
Yeah.
Therefore affecting how the brain works. What we're seeing is that can, digestion and how, the gut plays, it can really play a role in mood, energy swing or mood swings, your brain fog, fatigue, different things like that as well. So the two go hand in hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause that makes sense because people call your gut the second brain. It's like a common
It's the
thing,
enteric
right?
nervous system.
Yeah. And it's
which people do, or they're like, wait, does it think? No, it doesn't think.
No,
but
it doesn't think. But
communicate.
when people are like, hey, go with your gut, or you feel something right here, right? It's because it's connecting with your brain. It's your brain telling you something, but you feel it in your gut. It's pretty cool.
And it's interesting too, because like if we think in terms of like our hormones, right? Like we have different hormones that, come and play a role in our gut. So for example, ghrelin. So ghrelin, I remember ghrelin growls. Ghrelin is your hunger hormone. Okay. So basically your gut is going to be communicating with your brain to, communicate and say, I'm hungry. And that's because of our ghrelin hormone. So it's really interesting, the connection between the two and how the two work together. And I mean, that's your body systems overall. All of our body parts are going to work together as a team. It's not just going to be one part individually.
Is that ghrelin? Is that what like an Ozempic basically knocks out or something? I'm wondering. It tells you you're not hungry anymore. I don't know. Whatever those things.
Like in terms of like the Ozempic.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not my specialty. I'm not.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was just random thought.
No, I think if I can remember correctly, I think it plays a role. But again, I don't.
So
that's not my specialty.
So, what you eat can affect your mental state and actually make you feel a lot more, I guess, mental clarity, less brain fog, better overall mood. Stick to whole foods and eat the food groups unless there's a scientific reason not to.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too. Like if we really think of reality too, right? Is, eating whole foods 24/7 sustainable? No. And it's one of those things too. I'm really big on habit stacking and being realistic on what we can do. I'm cool with an 80-20, right?
I
if
like
we
that
are
term, habit stacking. I've
habit
never heard that
stacking.
before.
Yeah. I'm really cool with the 80-20. So if we are really trying 80% of the time to eat our fruits and vegetables, get enough protein, eat whole grains, all these different things, fantastic. But if you want to go out with your friends and go out to eat on the weekend, that's okay too. You know what I mean? Don't restrict yourself so much to where it's starting to affect your quality of life.
Gotcha. So all of that said, we're going to get down to the real stuff, stuff that Brian's been just itching to talk about over there, which is like pre-workout, protein, zen, caffeine, alcohol. How do all of these things remain? I'm asking for a friend.
I love it. Okay, where do we want to start?
I don't know. I would probably start with just, going to the gym, and you can speak on this. We were just talking about, it's part of that whole mental health, right? Yeah. I don't have as good as discipline as I should have with it. I try to, but that's your thing.
It is absolutely my thing. It's always been a big part of my life, right? And it's probably younger in my life, it was more, hey, sports or being in shape, that kind of thing. And the older I got, especially going through my career, it was kind of my outlet. Yeah. It's a place I can go to and get rid of stress. I work out alone, and I do that on purpose. I put my headphones on and do my thing. But it's also the flip side is if I don't get it done, it's another mental battle, right? It's because I failed myself for the day and I'm behind and do those things. But it's been a huge part in some dark times in my life, getting under that squat rack or whatever that may, or just cardio, whatever. And when I leave, I feel so much better. And I tell people all the time, it's more about just being strong or being in shape. Can you speak on the importance of that or what that does overall for your mental health as far as exercise?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, working out is incredible. It's an incredible tool for anybody. I think everybody needs to be active, right? I think we have a lot of people who are very sedentary and sit a lot. But working out, it plays a massive role for your overall mental health too. It's also one of those things too, it really helps ground people from my experience as well. For example, I really work with trying to get people into a routine. If we can start our mornings or get, some sort of workout in, whether it's Pilates, whether it's yoga, whether it's strength training, whether it's, running somewhere in our day, it's going to really create that stability. And again, habit stacking. So then we're able to build more habits on top of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a huge part of my life. Like I said, if my day doesn't, I'm a 4:30 guy, right? If my day misses 6 a.m.
early.
My whole day is off. Literally, it shifts everything for me.
I'm the same way because the days I do not work out at 6 a.m., I'm not as productive, right? I do a wide variety of different things. If I don't start my day like that, it throws my entire day off. I don't get tasks done. I can't stay focused. I can't, and then similar to what you said, I almost feel, sad or disheartened because I didn't go, Well,
there's something too, when I drive home from the gym and it's 6 a.m. and everybody's lights are still off at their house, I've already got a win for the day, right? So it does something for me mentally.
Yeah, 100%.
I come to work and I already feel like I'm already on mission. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So it's been huge.
I will say though, just tagging it in here, time to go to bed.
I don't sleep a lot. At all. Yeah. Not by choice, but I do not.
Great question.
If I get 3 hours a night, it's fantastic.
Okay. One thing I will plug in here, sleep is when your body recovers.
Right.
Right? Even from those workouts. So if we are not recovering, right, or not allowing ourselves that time for recovery, what's actually happening to our bodies?
In my say, it's not not allowing it, it just doesn't happen, right? I just don't sleep. My brain's all over the place. I toss and turn and all those things. It's definitely not by choice. I mean, I'm in bed by 9 o'clock, but by 11:30, I'm like, all right, is it time to get up?
Okay,
like,
so more like insomnia.
Something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I think we both, and probably a lot of people listening right now, it's, you come from a lifestyle that's just fueled by like nicotine, caffeine, and violence, and then it's
high stress, like
turn it all off now. And it's like, okay, well, I can't do violence anymore, but man, I can crush some nicotine and some caffeine right now, at least I got to have something. And
I think too, it's important to note too of like, why do we need the nicotine? Why do we need the caffeine? Like what's really going on there too? And it, yes, like you guys work and live in a state of fight or flight, right? I think the question is too, how do we get you guys to a point to where we can get you to recover? And what tools are we able to provide, and what tools are we able to work through to get you to that point to where your body can start to recover? You know what I mean? Yeah. Whether that's, really stimulating that vagus nerve, because a lot of times in high stress professions, that vagal tone is low, right? So how do we stimulate that? Whether it's from singing, humming, as silly as it sounds, it works. Or doing some sort of cold exposure, right? Sticking our face in a bowl full of ice water, right?
Okay, I can do that.
Yep, the stimulating that nerve. Yep. And really working on ways to bring our bodies from that fight or flight mode because it comes back to the digestive system, right? If we're constantly in a state of fight or flight, that's going to in turn affect digestion. Our bodies do not digest in a state of fight or flight.
No, they don't. No, I can definitely speak to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You'd be out for 2 or 3 days and you're not digesting anything. Yeah.
And and then it starts to affect.
It could be the MREs too, but.
Potentially. But it starts to affect our bowel patterns. I've seen patients with nausea or vomiting and different things like that. And, does that look like, okay, after we come off shift, do we need to do some deep breathing? Whether it's box breathing or just 5 deep breaths, like what do we need to do there? Is it before we eat, we are, doing some meditations? What does that look like, and how can we fit that into your lifestyle?
Yeah. And I would assume that looks different for everybody, right?
It does.
Just like our diets, what may not work for me may work for Paul, and vice versa.
Yeah. I've had some patients that come to me and they're like, Bayleigh, I cannot meditate to save my life. I can't get into the zone. I cannot do it. Like, all right, at least take 5 deep breaths.
Yeah.
Okay. Turn everything off, right? Eliminate those distractions at meal times. Turn off the TV, put your phone away, right? Chewing your food thoroughly. Okay. Chewing your food, 20 to 30 bites per chew. You know what I mean? Like really taking that time and taking a step back and pausing is incredibly important.
It's incredibly hard.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sitting here thinking about nicotine and caffeine. I think it's just to keep moving and keep going and keep you like my hands shake when I talk about it. Like I just want more.
Yeah.
But it's part of that habit stacking. It's become a habit.
Yeah. It's a negative habit stack.
I mean, honestly.
Well, and let me ask you this. Do you feel like it's a crutch?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I chewed Copenhagen for like 15 years.
Yeah.
And I quit about 10 years ago. And if you put a can of Copenhagen on this table right now, my mouth would water like that. And I haven't touched one since. Yeah. And I smoked a little bit, and then I started like, that's not good for you. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to start this Zen stuff up, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so I'm just crushing these things. And I'm like, did I just replace one thing for another?
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things too, like with nicotine, I know there's been a lot of podcasts that have come out and a lot of, even on social media of, how nicotine is good, but I think it's lacking in studies, truthfully. And I think we do need some more studies on that. But, if we're thinking in terms of nicotine as a whole, we have to almost separate it by the actual component itself and the delivery method. The delivery methods, majority of them are not great, right? Yeah. In terms of smoking, you have the combustion and you're releasing thousands of chemicals. With dip and Zins, I would make sure you're following up with your dentist and making sure you're watching to make sure you don't have receding gum line and different things like that.
Precancerous cells.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
and
it's,
and really watching that. But again, asking yourself, why do I need the nicotine? Why is this something I'm relying on? Why do I feel like I need to be more alert? Why do I feel like I need that oomph, right?
That's like saying, why do you need sunshine in your life? You know?
No. It's a hard one.
You know, and like caffeine is like
Same
become
thing.
my new, I mean, not my new thing. I've always been addicted to caffeine, but I read like 200 milligrams is a healthy amount a day. And I'm like, I get that before I leave my door in the morning.
A lot of people do.
And then I keep it going. I probably
lot
get
of
like
people.
somewhere around 1,000.
Yeah.
600 something
Yeah.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
Which is not
Before
good.
most people wake up, I've already crushed a week's worth. I mean, my pre-workout, then I come
Yeah,
home,
well,
and then
yeah.
my coffee, and then
Which,
all
you
this
know,
stuff.
have you ever tried quitting caffeine?
This is how bad it is. If I go to the gym and I have my pre-workout, I probably won't work out. It's that much in my head.
Yeah.
My wife and I went on this detox diet.
Yeah.
Whatever, just for
Yeah.
get some, you know, whatever. And I didn't drink coffee for like after the first day. I had a headache for 7 straight days.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's not going to work.
And again, it's one of those things. Why do we need that much? You know what I mean?
It's so
and
good.
really, I know it is, but
I mean, even like pre-workout, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, and this is, I know there's a lot of people that go to the gym that listen to this, right? Like, I take pre-workout. I don't know what the best one is out there. I'm sure you probably don't know either, but I'm just saying, like, we do the pre-workout, then it's like, well, why is protein in everything? And they want to push protein everything, right?
that one I'm convinced is marketing. You do need protein, but you don't need that much. I'm sorry. It's
I think-
that's a marketing gimmick.
I think like
all the
after a
protein
certain
right now.
amount of protein, you end up just like passing it anyway.
Yeah.
And then it's like
Well, and
creatine. I bought a thing of creatine like
Yes.
2 months ago because I'm like, well, I don't know what this does, but other guys take it in the gym, so
Yeah.
maybe I'll take it. you
Well,
know?
so let's break it down. So going back to caffeine, right? So caffeine wise, in terms of the pre-workout specifically, so pre-workout's not a bad thing, right? If we're thinking in terms of caffeine, we have to think, you know, the total amount. We really don't want to go above that 200 milligrams. If we're getting above, that's when it starts to affect our heart, right? And we develop, you know, cardiovascular risks there. Pre-workout though, you know, one thing I coach my clients on a lot of times is timing, right? So if you like to work out in the evenings and we're taking a caffeine stimulated, you know, pre-workout, that's going to start to affect your sleep, right? You're going to really struggle to get into that REM cycle. You're not going to feel as rested, and then that's going to affect your next day. And then your body's still not fully recovered. So it starts to affect that. You know what I mean? And it gets really funky there. In terms of the protein, because I know that was the next one. Protein, again, I think that's overly marketed right now. Everything has protein in it. It's just, you're always going to see something that's going to be pushed in the health world, right? Right now it's protein.
Yeah.
You get protein from your food. I hope you get protein from your foods, right? We're eating, you know, even if you're vegan, you still are able to get protein from plants and plant protein and different things like that. So, you know, just because coffee has 15 grams of protein in it doesn't mean it's necessary.
Does it?
There's a brand that has
getting some
protein.
gains in the morning.
No. It's not like coffee specific. There's a brand that has protein coffee
Gotcha.
on the market right now,
Gotcha.
and that's being pushed, and it's just heavily marketed.
Oh.
So it's not necessarily
I need to find
necessary.
this stuff.
Yeah.
The more
Well,
protein, the better, right? No, I'm just joking.
I don't know. Because it starts to really, you know, in fact, if we get too much protein, it can really hurt
Sure.
different organs too. So we have to be careful on that front. Creatine, on the other hand, I have a take on creatine. I think creatine is absolutely fantastic. I think everybody needs to be on creatine,
There
if
you
you want
go,
my honest
bud.
opinion.
Every day.
Creatine is fantastic for muscle recovery, right? But we're starting to see in the literature that it can actually be beneficial for brain health.
I actually read something about that recently. That's why I wanted to ask you about it. 'cause
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
I should buy this stuff.
definitely needs to be more studies, but I'm really excited to see what's going to be coming out. Now, one thing I do see a lot with creatine too is, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, I need to load creatine. I think a lot of that stems from the way the studies were set up.
Did you say load?
Load creatine. Is there really a difference between, you know, just sticking to the 5-10 milligrams or loading at the beginning and then going down? Depends on the result you want, you know? But over time, if your goal is just muscle recovery, it takes primarily, you know, a full month to really saturate that muscle store. but creatine's fantastic.
Do you take it before, after, during?
In my pre-workout.
In your pre-workout?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can take
Every
it
morning.
before or after.
Okay.
Right
Yeah.
in my pre-workout.
I was
and it's all
taking it
part of
after. That's probably why it doesn't work.
All part of it.
Right.
You can take it before or
But
after.
that was only twice a month when you worked
Yeah.
out. So
That's true.
probably why
Yeah,
it
you got to work
Yeah.
out more
It
than
wasn't
once.
working.
Yes, and I will say too. So I actually just found it at Fresh Time. There's a product. It's Trace Minerals. They have its combined creatine with electrolytes, so you're able to get your electrolytes.
That's what bodies crave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, fun fact.
Throwing it out there. You know what I'm talking about. All right. All right. Supplements.
Okay.
I take supplements because my wife tells me to. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sure those are probably tailored per person on what you need and probably what you don't need. I'm going to assume that.
Yes.
If you want to speak on supplements, I'd
Yeah.
love to hear about it.
Oh, supplements. I have a love-hate relationship. I don't think supplements are a bad thing, but I think the source where people do get their supplements is interesting. Supplements are one of those things to where they're not regulated the same as medications, right? And so a lot of times companies can get away with things in their supplements and put things in their supplements that shouldn't be there and aren't necessarily put on the label. So if you're looking at supplements and what, different brands to consume, make sure it's third-party tested, right? The other note there, I would not buy supplements from Amazon.
Good point.
At all.
That's where probably most people buy their supplements.
I would not buy supplements from Amazon. There has been story after story, case after case, to where shops will take the bottle, take the product out and put something else in, or there will be fillers in the capsules and it's not the true supplement. So just be very, very, very wary if you're buying supplements on Amazon. If you're going to, make sure it's from the actual storefront, because I know a lot of people like their Amazon supplements.
Yeah.
Full Script is a fantastic place. Even going to the supplement website directly is always smart.
Yeah.
My go-to right now is Thorne. I don't know if you guys have heard of the brand Thorne. That's typically the one I recommend, but it's third-party tested. It's one of the quote-unquote cleaner ones on the market, but that's typically my go-to. Now, in terms of supplements per person, again, that would be more individualized by case and what the patient actually needs. So, somebody who doesn't eat a ton of fish or doesn't go into the sun a lot, right? We might need some more omega-3, might need some vitamin D, different things like that, but it very much varies per person.
Gotta get Thomas some vitamin D. You know what I'm saying, buddy? All right, I got a couple of good questions here for you.
Yeah.
So, for anybody listening today that really wanted to start really rebuilding a lifestyle change built around nutrition and for the purpose of mental health and getting their body back in shape and their brain back in shape. What are some immediate things they could do today to start doing that?
Yep. Few things. One, I definitely think taking a pause before meals is important. So taking a few deep breaths, right, to ensure that we are digesting our food properly. The other thing is eating consistent meals, right?
Hold on, can you go back to that? What was that? Take a deep breath before you eat?
Yeah, taking a deep breath before you eat. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
Have
literally?
we talked about that today? Am I missed that? Okay,
Yeah.
I missed it completely. All right.
You're good.
All right.
The other one is eating consistent meals, all right? Because glucose regulation is important, right? If we are not eating for long periods of time, which I know is common, that can really affect our blood glucose levels. And so say, for example, we are not eating, we wake up, we go on shift, and we don't eat until 3, 4, 5 p.m. at night. The first meal of the day, depending on what it is, that can really cause a spike in that overall glucose, again, affecting multitude of different things, including our overall mental health. So eating consistent meals throughout the day. The other thing I would recommend as well is making sure just to include a balanced plate, right? So making sure you're getting in your fruits and vegetables, making sure you're getting in a source of protein, a good carbohydrate, okay? Not a quick carb, a good whole grain carbohydrate, whether it's brown rice, quinoa, different things like that. And making sure we're having that well-balanced plate overall, okay? That's going to be some of the most important things.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. This was a good, we were thinking about these questions kind of beforehand. There were some parting questions I wanted to ask you, and and it might be uncomfortable for some people out there to hear this, but like the health crisis that you were kind of alluding to earlier when it comes to this, do you think that it is has anything, I guess, well, does it come down to a lack of personal responsibility, right?
Somewhat.
Because the way that I kind of frame it in my head is, we have all this bad food for you, fast food that's cheap, and then you make good food for you more expensive. And it's like people are programmed into this cycle of just bad nutrition. And then by the time there was no information. Now there's information out there that says this is not good for you, but they're already programmed to eat terrible. Then they don't want to believe that. And it's like this endless cycle of just terrible.
Yeah. I think partially, truthfully.
Yeah.
And it's, you are the maker of your own life. You have a choice, right? You have the opportunity to get up in the morning, go to the gym, or you have the opportunity to stay in bed and sleep more. And oversleep at that. You have the opportunity to eat, well-balanced lunch, or you have the opportunity to grab something from the vending machine. You have the opportunity to take a pause and really focus on the decompressing before you go into your house and greet your family, or you are risking going in and snapping. You have the responsibility to make those choices. And I think everybody does, But on the flip end, I do think there's a lot of misinformation out there that does influence people's decisions. So in that regard, I think the information you're consuming, make sure it's legit and correct. So if you're consuming information from social media platforms, make sure it's from registered dietitians. We are the only ones who are the experts in nutrition from the start. So even physicians, there's a study published by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. Physicians only get, I think it was around like 3 to 4 hours of nutrition training, period, unless they go advanced. So really making sure you get your nutrition advice from the experts, right? And registered dietitians are those experts.
That's good information.
Yeah, so I've seen both sides of that because I try to eat clean. I exercise. It's a big part of my life, and understanding there is some personal, accountability to that, right? On the flip side, my wife, she eats great. She does all the things, but she's got autoimmune. She's got inflammation. She's got all these things, right? And she goes to the doctor like, well, everything looks right. And like, well, it's not.
Yeah.
She's constantly sick. She's constantly having gut issues.
Yeah.
Nobody can figure that out, but she's trying to do the right things, but still can't find that happy place per se. So I think there's two sides of that coin, right?
Exactly. And it's it goes back to the individual. Where is the individual at, right? Like, are they actively not making the right decisions, or are they trying to make the right decisions and they got the odds stacked against them, whether it's from their genetics, whether it's from the misinformation, whether it's from, the cards they've been dealt. It just depends on the person, truthfully.
Yeah. Great segue into the last question I had for you, because my wife's a patient of yours. Very similar issues going on, but hey, tell us just a little bit about Balance Blue. Kind of what you do, how you help people, kind of what you provide, and then let's just hear about it.
100%. So Balance Blue, it is an integrative functional nutrition practice, right? So I am the dietitian for the business. Basically, what I wanted to create was what helped me, right? And get it local, because there's not something like that here, right? As far as I know, right? I don't know another dietitian who is specializing it in Evansville. So for the practice, I have 2 programs specifically, just kind of depends on where the patient's at. One being my Balance Blueprint program, which is, it's a monthly program. You get access to 3 sessions with me. We have weekly support groups, unlimited access. I have exercise templates, meal plans, different things like that to really get the patients into the mindset of, okay, I want to make the change. Let's make the change. Here we go, right? Yeah. Here's my support system. And then I have my elite program, okay? And the elite is more in that integrative and functional medicine realm. So within the elite program, it's a 6-month program, all right? And it's 13 sessions total with me, and we're going into that full deep dive, okay? So we're doing testing, we're doing all the nitty-gritty things to try and figure out what the heck is going on, why am I not getting these answers, okay? And it's, it's individualized, It's not some cookie cutter, okay, this is the mold we're going to try and fit you in, and this is what we're going to give you, and that's it. It is individualized from the diet perspective. It's individualized from the, I do professional supplement recommendations, from the testing. Everything is individualized to the client as a whole from that integrative functional nutrition lens.
Yeah. Well, I think it's awesome that you do it. I know my wife's pretty pumped about it so far. We're relatively new to it, but and this all goes into, I like what you said, you know, here in Evansville, right? Like we wanted to bring people on that it's not like, hey, we have this great solution. Just, we're based out of California.
Yep.
Come out there and we'll help you out.
Yeah.
It's like, no, anybody listen, everybody listens, mostly is from here. You can come find you.
Yeah, 100%.
If they're looking for
and it's one of those things, like, I get it. I've been in your shoes, right? Like I was the patient, and I think that's what sets me apart from other practitioners too, is I've been in your shoes. I've been sick. I've been on the other side of it, to where it looks like that's it. Right? It looks
you've
like
been way worse than
yeah,
a lot
like
of people.
it looks like well, this
hats
this
off to your
looks
mom and dad. My goodness.
They are amazing people. But I mean, I've been in the shoes of, this is going to be the rest of my life. Oh my gosh. What am I going to do? Like, you know what I mean? I know my husband and I, we were together during that time too. We've been together for years, and, you know, we were even prepping what's life going to look like for when we're married? Like, what's work going to look like? What's a job going to look like? Schooling, everything. So I've been in your shoes. I know exactly what you're going through.
Shit, yeah. I mean,
you know,
like you're holding a baby someday and you just pass out and drop it.
Exactly. You know? Yeah. And it's just, it's one of those things. I feel like a lot of practitioners, you know, a few can relate, but not a lot can't. And so it's definitely something that sets me apart.
Yeah, no, it's great.
And I love it, because I believe there is no cookie cutter, right? We're all different.
Yes.
And that's really a struggle we've had with my wife trying to get help, is like, just because her numbers say this doesn't mean she feels this, right?
Exactly.
So I think it's extremely important, understanding that from
100%.
your approach. How do we fix things, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any parting words, Brian? Or
No, I appreciate the information. I think this, you know, it really drives home the importance of, you know, our exercise and our diets, and how much of an impact that can have, you know, mainly from where we come from, our mental health, you know, because we're big on how do we get dudes feeling better and, you know, more energized and doing the things.
It's important, right? It even comes down to even the decision making on the job. Like, we have to be at a place to where we can function normally, and food nutrition plays a role in that.
Yes, it does.
And we didn't really touch on it, but just to kind of circle back to that, like how that affects your cognitive, like how, you know, our diets can affect our decision making, and how fogginess and all that, because it's a real thing.
Yes. No, it really is. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, unless you've got anything else you want to get out there, I do want to know, where can people find you?
Oh my gosh, everywhere. Look me up, Bayleigh Wessel-Burress. Look up Balance Blue Collective. You know, I'm on all social media platforms. You can find my website. You can find me everywhere, guys. On TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the good things.
We'll put all your ties into the show notes and all that. Yeah. So, well, thanks again for coming on. And
thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks everyone for listening to another episode of The Watch and the War.